They've crossed battlefields, survived brutal regimes, endured decades in refugee camps. But today, thousands of immigrants from certain Asian countries live in the United States with a peculiar kind of invisibility. They aren't hidden. They aren't fugitives. In fact, many have received final deportation orders. And yet, they can't be deported. Why? Because their home countries won't take them back. Some of these countries don't have embassies in the U.S., others deny the individuals in question, or even citizens. For some, diplomatic ties are so broken that communication is nearly impossible. And in the silence that follows, lives are left in limbo. This isn't about luck. It's about global stalemates, frozen diplomacy, and systems that quietly grind to a halt, leaving real people stuck between two worlds. Here are 10 countries where deportation orders from the U.S. often go unenforced. The reasons are complex, the outcomes life-altering. #10. Bhutan. A silent standstill. Let's begin with Bhutan. It's a country perched in the Himalayas with no formal diplomatic relationship with the United States. There's no embassy in Washington, no consular office, no channel through which U.S. immigration can coordinate deportation logistics. And that's not a glitch. It's policy. When a Bhutanese national in the U.S. overstays a visa or loses an asylum case, there's no government back home to approve travel documents. No travel documents mean no deportation. It's that simple and that complicated. For individuals from Bhutan, even a final order of removal often means nothing changes. They remain in the U.S., not because they won a case, but because the wheels of bureaucracy have nowhere to turn. It's a diplomatic standoff with human consequences. #9. North Korea. Beyond the reach of law, trying to deport someone to North Korea is like trying to mail a letter to a black hole. There is no U.S. embassy in Pyongyang, no North Korean embassy in Washington, no direct flights, no official contact, and even if there were, North Korea refuses to acknowledge the existence of citizens who left without state permission. The regime often treats them as traitors. They're not welcome back. They're disowned. So when a North Korean in the U.S. is issued a final order of removal, it means very little in practice. There's no cooperation, no documentation, and no path forward. Deportation becomes a legal impossibility. #8. Syria. No documents, no dialogue, no return since the U.S. closed its embassy in Damascus in 2012 amid civil war and escalating violence. Syria has essentially become a no-return zone. Without an operating embassy or consulate, there's no mechanism to issue or verify Syrian travel documents. And the Syrian government, under the Assad regime, often denies the nationality of those ordered removed. That's not just bureaucratic resistance. It's political. Some are seen as enemies of the state. Others are rejected altogether. And even if documentation could be arranged, deporting someone into an active conflict zone raises enormous human rights concerns. Courts in the U.S. are aware of this and frequently halt removals on humanitarian grounds. The result: Syrians with removal orders remain in the U.S., caught in legal purgatory. #7. Iran. Politics over process since 1980. The U.S. and Iran have had no diplomatic relations. No embassies. No formal engagement. The Swiss embassy represents Iranian interests in Washington, but its powers are limited. Iran routinely delays or denies travel documents for citizens ordered deported. In some cases, it flat out refuses just to accept them unless they return voluntarily, something few are willing to do, especially given the risk of arrest, persecution, or worse upon return. Sanctions, mistrust, and decades of political hostility make deportation a diplomatic nightmare. So, most Iranian nationals under final removal orders remain in the U.S., not because of leniency, but because of inertia. #6. Laos. Stuck in the system, some Laotian nationals in the U.S. have lived here since the 1970s and 80s, arriving as refugees after the Vietnam War. Their lives are rooted in American communities, but many still lack permanent legal status. Even when ordered deported, they often don't leave, because the Laotian government won't leave them, because the Laotian government won't take them back. The U.S. signed a repatriation agreement with Laos in 2003, but enforcement remains inconsistent. Verifying identity, securing cooperation, and issuing travel documents can take years, or never happen at all. Many people under removal orders are released into the community with supervision. They live quietly, suspended between systems. Not undocumented, not legal, just stuck. #5. Myanmar, frozen by fear and a coup after Myanmar's 2021 military coup. Relations with the U.S. deteriorated rapidly. The U.S. paused formal engagement, including deportation coordination. Even before the coup, Myanmar often refused to accept returnees, especially political dissidents, ethnic minorities, and critics of the regime. Now, with the military in control and repression rampant, deportation has become both politically and morally fraught. Human rights groups has become both politically and morally fraught. Human rights groups and U.S. courts regularly block removals. Returning someone to Myanmar today could mean imprisonment or worse. As a result, hundreds of deportation cases have been delayed or quietly shelved. Individuals are released. Cases go cold. And the system moves on without resolution. #4. Vietnam. A line in the sand. 2008. Vietnam and the U.S. signed a repatriation agreement. But with one crucial happening now. Vietnam would not accept deportees who arrived in the U.S. before July 12, 1995 were normalized. That single clause has protected thousands. Most of these individuals came as refugees after the Vietnam War. Some later lost legal status due to expired visas or criminal convictions. But because due to expired visas or criminal convictions, but because they arrived before 1995, the Vietnam refuses patching. Political sensitivities. Even for those who arrived after 1995, cooperation is patchy. Political sensitivities, paperwork delays, and distress still derail many cases. Deportation isn't blocked by law. It's blocked by policy and history. Deportation isn't blocked by law. It's blocked by policy and history. #3. Cambodia. Bureaucracy is a barrier. At first glance, Cambodia appears cooperative. The U.S. and Cambodian governments have agreements in place to handle deportations, but in practice, it's anything but smooth. Travel documents can take years to issue. Identity verification is slow, and Cambodia has shown reluctance to accept returnees with criminal histories or unclear ties to the country. Many of those facing deportation left Cambodia decades ago as children. Their cultural ties are weak, their family connections severed. Cambodia often sees them as outsiders, and the process halts. Some individuals remain in U.S. detention for long periods. Others are released under supervision. The common thread? Unresolved cases and endless uncertainty. #2. Yemen. War, collapse, and chaos. Yemen isn't just difficult to deport people to. It's often impossible. Since civil war broke out in 2015, Yemen's government has essentially ceased to function. There's no stable authority to accept deportees, no embassy, no processing system, and no safe return. Sending someone back to Yemen could mean dropping them into a war zone. Violence, famine, displacement, these are daily realities. For that reason, deportation orders for Yemeni nationals are often frozen indefinitely. They may live under supervision. They may even be detained for a time. But actual removal rarely happens. #1. Afghanistan. A nation left in limbo. After the fall of Kabul in 2021 and the Taliban's return to power, Afghanistan became a black hole for immigration enforcement. Thousands of Afghans in the U.S. were suddenly left with no country to return to, at least not safely. The Taliban regime isn't internationally recognized. Communication is fractured. Verifying identity or issuing documents is nearly impossible. Even if logistics weren't an issue, the humanitarian risk is massive. Returning someone to Taliban-controlled Afghanistan could be a death sentence, especially for women, political activists, or former U.S. allies. Many Afghans in the U.S. arrived on humanitarian parole or as evacuees. Some have since lost status. Others face uncertain legal futures. But actual deportation, it's not happening. For thousands, These diplomatic dead ends mean life in limbo, caught between two worlds, with no way home and no way forward.